Alright, so I'm going to pick up where I left off with the power steering cooler being installed, and now I'm going to install my transmission cooler and continue making a mess on my floor with transmission fluid everywhere. I went with a Hayden cooler this time. Just like the power steering cooler, it's painted black, and I wanted black coolers. I didn't want to be able to look at the radiator and see a bunch of silver coolers stuffed in there. So this install should be a little easier than the power steering cooler. There's just not as much stuff in the way. So I took some measurements and I feel like this size is going to be a good fit. So I'm going to mount it right here on the radiator, slightly offset to the passenger side, since I got the power steering cooler on this side, on the driver's side. Alright, so I definitely want to put mine, I'm still going to keep using the cooler that's built into the radiator, and I'm going to install this in series after the radiator. So I traced the lines coming out of the transmission, and I'm going to tie into the fitting that's on the passenger side of the radiator. That's the return line that goes back to the transmission. So I got my factory service manual here, and right here it says front fitting on the transmission is outlet to the cooler and the rear fitting is inlet from the cooler. So this is the line that I followed up to the front to make sure I was tying into the correct one, and it comes out on the passenger side, so that's the line that I want to tie into. So I'm going to do this a little bit different than I did with the power steering cooler, and I'm actually going to go ahead and put this hose on the cooler in a loop. That way I don't have to, and I'm going to go ahead and mount it to the radiator. That way I don't have to mess with it afterwards. Alright. If you use a little bit of ATF or WD-40 or something, makes those hoses slide on way easier. Alright, I got my little rubber pads stuck to the back using the flange since it's a plate style. I got the first two little mounting nubs in here, and I'm just going to slide it up from the bottom in front of the radiator, between the grill and the radiator. Kind of figure out where I want it. Put it a little high since there's going to be the winch in front of it, and it can get a little more airflow that way. Okay. Got it in there nice and level. Screws facing out, so I can always tighten or take them off. All right. And then the little clips on the back with the logo facing out. And cut the tails off. Alright. Alright, kind of hard to get a camera angle of this, but here's the 2 lines from the cooler, or the 1 loop from the cooler. I'm just going to push them over here. I think I'm going to route them this way, like to the top of the frame. Zip tie them up there really good. You know, and kind of have them going this way rather than being below the radiator and coming close to the drag link. Here's the line I need to tie into right here. So I think what I'm going to do is clamp this line really good. Like that. Undo this screw, which is just a little 1/4 inch, or undo this hose clamp, just a little 1/4 inch screw in there. And then shove one of these hoses on. I need to kind of figure out how long I want it to be. So if I do this one and it comes down like this, like right there would be enough, kind of like that. I think that'll be good enough. So I'll cut this one here. Get a radiator clamp on it. Okay, I'll get that one to go in that, and then this one, it should have enough slack. Oh yeah, it will. I'll be able to go into that one. Try to do this as quick as possible, but I know I'm going to lose a ton of transmission fluid. I'm sure it's going to be running down my arms and in my armpits and everything else. I do have these. These are the caps that came off of the cooler. These little rubber caps. If I need to like plug it really quick because I can't get the line on or something, you know, that's an option. So, all right, I got my catch can ready. Got my first line ready. Let's see what we can do here. It is about to start going. Hey, look at that. I did not make a huge mess. That is awesome. Oh, geez. As soon as I say something. Okay. All right. There's one. All right. Let's loosen the next one. Okay. I didn't lose anywhere near as much as I thought I would. Okay. There we go. Nice. Alright, so that was a lot less messy than I expected it to be. Alright, there we go. There's the 2 lines. Routed around and up to the cooler. I'm going to take this and this is a piece of radiator hose, cut a line, you know, cut a slit in it, and I'm going to wrap it around. And I'll wrap it around these lines up here where they go around the edge of the radiator and go on top of the frame. I'll wrap them in this so they don't get rubbed and zip tie them up there really good. Okay, something like that. I'll throw another zip tie around it up there just to make sure it doesn't fall back through the frame, but I don't really think it can. Alright, I got it lightly zip tied to the brake line right there, so it cannot fall down. And it's wedged between the radiator and the grill really good. It comes out over here. Everything's got a really nice loop. No kinks or binds or anything. So, okay, I think I'm done. There's a good view of it from the top of the engine looking down. The focus would focus, right? Alright, I'm going to start it up, check it for leaks, and then take it for a test drive. I barely lost any transmission fluid, so I'll get it hot and run it really good and then check the fluid level, but I bet it'll need barely any. Alright, no leaks. The real test will be the next time I take it wheeling, especially if I drive to the trail, wheel it for several hours, and then drive it home. If it doesn't leak after that, then it should be good to go. I'm not worried about it though. I mean, it's going to be totally fine. So next up, I'll get my new winch and bumper mounted up, and then we'll start tackling some other stuff on the list. I got to notch that frame. That's like the big one. Alright, so it's been a while. I've put a ton of miles on the Jeep since the cooler was installed. Just trying to finish the gear break-in and everything like that so I can change the gear oil in the 8.8. No issues, no leaks or anything. It's working totally fine. I do want to talk about orientation real quick. So some people will tell you that pointing the inlet and the outlet of the cooler down is bad because there's a potential for air to get trapped in the top of the cooler and it won't cool as effectively and that sort of thing. That's not actually true, and all of the manufacturers of transmission coolers, like Hayden, the instruction manual specifically shows the inlet and the outlet pointed down in the installation manual. DeRayleigh has some options, some diagrams that show the inlet and the outlet of the ports facing down, and there's some specific model-specific coolers that are designed to fit in a certain spot, and they come from the manufacturer with the ports specifically facing down, on both sides. So the orientation doesn't actually matter. So I would go by what the manufacturer says and what they have in the installation sheet, and I wouldn't go by what somebody on the internet said. Also got my new bumper and winch on, but that'll be the next video.